Last month, my most anticipated video game of all time released, Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. I'm a huge fan of this series, and I've been waiting for this game for around 3 years now. And I now feel like I've put enough time into the game to where I can give my review. Keep in mind that I've completed most of the side ops and the entire main campaign, and hope you enjoy. We start the review off with the most divisive part of the game, and that is the story. The story revolves around Naked Snake, aka Big Boss, the star of Metal Gear Solid 3, and Peace Walker, as he has awoken from his 9-year coma after Ground Zeroes, and now he seeks revenge on the people who put him in a coma and the people who destroyed his base and his life, basically. The pacing and the progression of the story is a bit slower than the other games, and there isn't as much depth to it as I would have hoped, but I still really enjoyed the story. It was very, dark. It was much darker than any of the other Metal Gear games, and it delved into some controversial subject matter and just had a great cast of characters, probably my favorite cast of characters besides the ones from MGS1. And yeah, it was just a really emotional, really interesting, very thought-provoking story, I think, even though it's personally not my favorite story in the series. I won't say much more about the story because I really don't want to spoil it. Next we move on to the presentation. First off, the graphics are amazing, some of the best I've seen on the next-gen consoles. The environments look beautiful, the character models look pretty realistic, there's lots of detail. And just the cinematic presentation in the cutscenes is probably the best I've ever seen in a video game, honestly. I mean, the facial animations are amazing, the lighting is great, the shots and angles are very cool, and it's just very immersive, really gets you into the story. The audio as well is excellent. The soundtrack is pretty awesome with some very memorable tracks. The sound effects for the weapons are very realistic and very immersive. And the voice acting is some of the best I've seen in video games, especially from Kiefer Sutherland. He does a fantastic job as Big Boss, even though I do still miss David Hayter's legendary voice and kind of wish that he could have been in it, but oh well. And I definitely have to give props to Robin Atkin Downes for his performance of Kazuhiro Miller. He freaking nailed it. I could always sense the anger that this character felt, and it really did feel like this character had gone through a major transformation. Now it's time to talk about the best part of the Phantom Pain, and that is the gameplay. I have almost no flaws, maybe not even really any big flaws with the gameplay. I thought that it was just like the most perfect stealth gameplay I've ever experienced. Easily the best gameplay of any Metal Gear Solid game. First, I have to praise the controls. Something that bothered me with the older Metal Gear games today is that their controls feel kind of clunky and a bit weird compared to games that come out nowadays, and it could be hard to pull off certain CQC moves and shooting, but I thought that the controls in Ground Zeroes were awesome, and the Phantom Pain has taken those controls and pretty much perfected them. Accompanying these fantastic controls are the fantastic body movement of Snake, which have been revised a lot. Snake is now much more fast, slick, and more agile than ever before. And it's just an absolute joy to control him. The shooting mechanics as well are great. It's pretty much just like a regular third-person shooter with a first-person view for more precise shots, which is really cool. However, arguably the biggest change to the formula in the Phantom Pain is that this game is open world, and by open world I mean open world. There are two fully explorable regions, northern Kabul, Afghanistan, and the Angola-Zaire border region of Central Africa. Both are very large, very beautiful, and have a lot to do in them. And the amazing thing about this open-ended level design is that you are now able to play just about any mission any way you want. I mean, you can really experiment in this very organic way, which is just so satisfying, coming up with your own plans and then going through your plan and maybe adjusting to failures in your plan, and yeah, you can just create these really exciting, epic moments that would normally be scripted set pieces in games like, say, Uncharted. But now you can make these moments for yourself. And if you wanted to, you could play it like an action game. Although at heart, it is still a stealth game, and it is more satisfying and a bit easier to play it like a stealth game. The AI is also a lot smarter now, and as soon as you're seen, they call for backup, and it turns into a very tough situation. So I still think that stealth is the best way, but if you really think about it and plan properly, you could go in guns blazing and play it like an action game if you really wanted to. Phantom Pain also brings back the mother-based management system from Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, in which you can manage a base, recruit soldiers for a private army, and customize it to an extent. Only this time you actually get to go to this base, as it is a physical part of the game rather than just backgrounds and menus like it was in Peace Walker. If I had any gripes with the Phantom Pain, I would say that the second chapter of the game, well, the game is split up into like 2 seasons, is what I like to call it, like seasons of a TV show. Like, after you're done with the first 31 missions or so, then you unlock chapter 2 and you play like 10 missions or so in that. And I feel like chapter 2 it felt a little bit lazy to me in comparison to chapter 1, and it just wasn't, like, I still enjoyed it a lot, don't get me wrong, but I don't know, the missions weren't quite as fun and the story didn't feel as connected, although I will say that chapter 2 does have the most impactful moments in the story. And so now we can finally talk about the biggest flaw from Ground Zeroes that was fixed in the Phantom Pain, and that is the value. Holy crap, there is just so much to do in the Phantom Pain, it's crazy. There are about 207 missions if you combine both the main missions with the side ops. There are about 50 main story missions and 157 side ops. There are also 2 different online modes that you can play. There are FOB missions where you infiltrate other players' bases for stealing resources. And they just came out with Metal Gear Online, which is a competitive online multiplayer that is extremely fun, and I might do a separate video on it at some point, but don't bet on it. And the Phantom Pain actually has the best replay value I've ever seen in a video game, since you can replay these missions and figure out totally different ways of playing them that you never realized before. You don't even unlock some of the better gear until after you've maybe finished the main story, but in that way, the game sort of has like a seamlessly integrated New Game Plus, as Yongye put it. He's another YouTuber, but anyway, so yeah, you can go back and just replay missions with this new gear and just have fun figuring out different tactics and different ways of achieving goals.
When all hope bleeds out.
In conclusion, Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain was totally worth the 3 years of hype. It is a masterpiece, and maybe even the best video game I've ever played in my life. I give it an easy 10 out of 10, despite Chapter 2 feeling a little lackluster. After all, no matter what Konami says, this truly is a Hideo Kojima game.
All for you.